are the we are the Xavier Foundation. We are a group of people who care about the St. Francis Xavier School building. It's a large 30,000 square foot building with a sizable auditorium, sizable gymnasium, and we're tonight sponsoring a theater speak in which our guests of honor are Alice Spritz and Chris Evans. And I think maybe the place to start here is ladies first with introductions. And Alice, could you introduce yourself?
Sure.
And
hi, I'm Alice Spritz. I moved to Missoula from Los Angeles about 7 months ago, and quite taken with the town and its fine people. And I'm an actress, writer, and I have a solo show that I do that I've done at some venues around town here. And I've done stand-up improv in LA and New York for many years, and I performed for the OJ jury. That was one of my group's claim to fame, while they were sequestered, of course. And my show was accepted in the New York International Fringe Festival. And since I've been here, I was in an MCT show, Death Trap, and Sean Gant, some of her stuff I've done, and that's who I am.
yeah, and thank you. And I will say it was an unforgettable reading out of James Joyce that Alice treated us to. And I'll go on around with Chris Evans, our other honored guest.
Well, thank you very much. I am an actor, director, producer here in town. I've been in Missoula. My wife and I, Leslie, L-E-S-L-I, has been here in Missoula since 1986. Done everything we possibly could to be involved in the theater. We've worked with pretty much every group here in town. We've had many discussions about how theater can help the Missoula community and the surrounding community, and I'm very excited about tonight.
Well, thank you, Chris, and I will second that by saying that my wife and I have been recipients of some of your work, and Chris directed Amadeus. All I can say is we were enthralled. It totally took over the stage and took over our lives for, I will say, several days.
I was very glad. Thank you.
It was a very strong,
Excellent.
A very strong show. And we've got with us another guest, lady guest, Denise, also from LA. Denise?
Well, I've probably been here the longest of all of you because I've been here for 8 days now. And I came with the noble task of visiting Alice for vacation. I'm a graduate student getting my PhD in political science at UC Irvine, and I'm an elected official in LA for the Green Party. And I do a lot of organizing work, and I also was a professional stand-up comedian, which you need for politics. You need a sense of humor. It's pretty depressing, especially these days. But I've been helping out with this just because, for me, on a vacation, the most fun thing to do is to organize. So I'm kind of a sicko that way. So I'm looking forward to
Thank you.
our conversation.
Thank you, Alice. This is and I'm looking around and I'm seeing youth around as I look around the table, and this is and it is, but this is a youth, this is a young person's thing, a gymnasium, an auditorium, and the things you can do with it. Leslie, I see you nodding, and
I agree. Yeah.
Leslie Evans.
I'm Leslie Evans, and I've been doing theater since I was probably 5 years old, starting out in Great Falls and then over here in Missoula, and then with Chris in Idaho, and then back here again. And yeah, like he said, we've performed with or had something to do with just about every group in town, whether it's musical, comedy, drama, dance. We worked with Garden City Ballet for a while, and we're the parents of 3 children. So, and they love theater. Go fig. And so they do things over at MCT, and they organize kids at daycare and things like that. And my son says, "Hey, have you seen this movie? Well, let's put on a show. And you go here and you go here, and I'll do this and you say that." So, kids play like that, they do things like that, and so, given an outlet, an opportunity, and a space for them to go and do that would be wonderful. So
Well,
I'm all for this.
Yes, and it's interesting you'd mention that, because one of our dreams is, and we're not alone in this dream, is the Institute for Child Development,
Right.
which would concentrate on after-school programs, and as we see it, to fit the real needs, they would run at least until midnight, so that, at least. But many parts of the country, these after-school programs are literally around the clock to support working parents. It's the real world we all live in. But thank you. Suzette, we have with us Suzette Dussault, who went to school in those buildings, I do believe.
And actually taught in those buildings, too.
And taught in them, too.
Yeah, beautiful buildings with a lot of heart and soul and character. And Missoula doesn't have the buildings that Helena does or Great Falls does. We need to treasure each of these unique buildings that are part of our heritage and part of our built landscape. But their architectural features, to Missoula, they're landmarks, and we need to, just as Mount Sentinel and Mount Jumper are landmarks, these are our cultural landmarks, and we need to maintain them. And St. Joseph's or St. Francis has served as a wonderful community center for the Greek festivals, for the Project Children's Irish St. Patty's Day parties and festivals and get-togethers. And so it's really, they're an important resource and hard to replace when you look at the replacement values of these buildings. But also, I am a singer and an actress and, music. That's how I met Chris and Leslie, and actually that's how I met Tom, and that's actually how I met Alice, was actually through Mahjong, but through also a shared interest in art. And that's one of the beauties of Missoula, is that because I was blessed to be able to sing, I've been able to make these wonderful friendships and relationships with people through art and through music and through theater, and it's just so enriching. And I think that it's really important for the community to come forward and to provide that. The schools do an admirable job with the limited resources in providing the art and the music. They also, we also need the community to come forth and do some community theater. But anyway, so I'm really excited about looking at the possibility of maintaining this beautiful structure with a lot of heart and soul. We lost Sacred Heart Academy, and I think there's a lot of us in this community who say, never again,
I agree. It was a tremendous loss. Sacred Heart Academy was the duplicate. It was from the same set of plans as Old Main on the campus, and to lose that was an unbelievable loss. And so in some way, if we plan and work and really work hard on things, it's possible that we can avoid those kind of losses. Suzette, actually, I think you grew up in a house just kitty corner.
I did.
Just virtually across the street.
Also, she was did you mention she was a member of the school board?
And that's true, she was.
Yeah.
It's pretty important.
And you did yeoman duty for several years in that capacity, and that means so many evening meetings, so much given up out of your life.
Yeah.
So Suzette has gotten her life back, and she is actually, yes, and also becoming a French teacher and French camps.
Yep.
We have James Weir with us, and James comes to us, you'll guess when you hear him talk, from Scotland, ultimately. But,
I roll my R's like that, talk like William Wallace.
But he's there you are, and he's a Missoulian now, and he helps people that are seeking work through the AFL-CIO. Right?
Yeah, they're dislocated workers, people who've been laid off from their jobs, and we have a program which is typically underfunded right now. We can give you a lot of advice, but not much actual monetary help. But I don't want to dwell on the woes of that. My interest in Xavier is similar to Suzette's, that I like to see historic preservation. I like to see adaptive reuse. And I think it gives an ambience and an air and a sense of continuity to a place where you live, where there's old buildings and new buildings, but people like a sense of permanence where they're living. And I think our society is going so fast that people need something to hold on to. And I think it's really excellent. And you see it in Europe a lot of the time. And I've said this probably ad nauseum, but I mean, they didn't rebuild Europe after the Second World War in a 21st century style. They went back to the 16th century and the 15th century and the 16th century, and they rebuilt it as it was before because that's what people wanted. And most people in America who want to go to Europe want to go to see. They don't want to go see a McDonald's. They want to go and see a palace or a typical French village or a typical Belgian village. They don't want to go and see all the fancy 21st century towers. But the French, of course, make a habit of the Louvre is one example, but the crystal cube or the crystal, not a cube, but pyramid, yeah. Inside the Louvre, which caused almost a revolution in France when it went in, but the French are noted for that. But my interest is an interested layman. I think I'm on the board of the Francis Xavier Foundation, and so that's where I come from, is just to lend support and hope that the Catholic parish and the diocese see the value of the buildings and can either donate, will, or use or preserve the buildings for the use of the city. That's what I'm after. It's a marvelous gift to give the citizens of Missoula.
Well, thank you. We've been around the table. Has anybody been left out? And we have, we have a building with an 8,000 square foot auditorium, sizable stage. And it sits in a neighborhood with documented from the 2000 census, documented poverty rate of 44% among the children. We have needy children in the area. We wonder about that as an opportunity. We wonder what theater could maybe offer kids like that. Chris, Leslie, from your...
Could I just jump in here?
James,
that I do have a minor claim to fame as a theater person. I did do readings on the Pea Green Boat for KUFM Public Radio when Marcia Dunn was there, and so I do have some claim to be a theater person. So I'm not totally out of touch. Okay.
There you go. It's radio theater.
Yeah.
And it's
which I like very much.
It's hard to beat that Scottish charm. None of us can duplicate it.
One of the things I wanted to say about theater, and I thought about this taking a look at my own children, is that one thing I believe children have lost, and I'll just make the generic sweeping generalization and we'll go from there, is I believe children are losing their innocence. They're losing what magic can be. The magician pulls the rabbit out of the hat. They got it figured out before the rabbit touches the table. And for a child, and I can just use my children, I find that sad. And coming from a theatrical standpoint, theater once again can provide magic. It can appeal to the innocence of the children. It can let them be kids again. I believe that's very important, especially in this day and age when they have to grow up faster than they really should, in my opinion. As an example, one of the first shows that my oldest son was taken to was an adaptation of Farley Mowat's A Whale for the Killing that was done many, many years ago. And there were no whales in the show. The whales were handled by dancers at the UM staff. And listening to my son talk about the whales in the show, he was just captivated and just entranced by being able to jump into this story. And what a wonderful gift to give to kids. What a wonderful gift to give to kids. So as an actor, it charges me, it excites me to give the kids the chance to be kids again. And also some adults. It gives some adults a chance to be kids again, to not be cynical, to not worry about who is, hurting who, which party is doing this. Just a chance to escape and get back into story.
Well, that's a good summary because, as you say, it's about story.
Yeah.
And
I'd just like to echo what Chris was saying. I agree with you 100%. And I think what I was trying to say too was that people need magic. And the magic of preserving or having a building that has all the historical connotations. The founding of Montana, it was right there. It's a continuity. It's the magic of having something that was built many, many years ago. It's still there. We're still using it. This is magic. And people have lost this, and I agree with you 100%. I don't see it only for kids. I see it for people. People are looking for magic. They're looking, it may say airy-fairy and stuff, but they're looking for magic. They're looking for some excitement in life and something they can think of and something they can catch on to. And I agree with you 100%.
And there's not a lot of things for kids to do. On Friday night, we were walking down the street and we noticed over 100 children gathered at Expert Tire, standing around at Expert Tire, and I thought, oh, what's going on there? We looked. There's nothing going on there. They're standing around, fully made up, all dressed up, and they're just sort of looking bored. And I was thinking, these are the kids who should be at the Xavier School. And I made a list of things that could be done. There could be theater, there could be classes, a senior center, basketball, games, movie night, improv, dances, at-risk kids, after-school programs for parents that work and need somewhere for their kids to go that's safe. Instead of Expert Tire, they could actually have somewhere, where they can be. Parenting classes, partnering with the university, nonprofits, after-school meals. There's so many things that could be done, and I hope that the church will do the right thing. The father of the church said in one of the articles I read in your packet of articles at your website, which is xavierfoundation.net, Xavier foundation.net. The article said that the father didn't want to preserve the building because he said, we haven't decided what we want to do with it. When the National Registry decided they want to preserve it unanimously, they all decided this building was worth preserving, this whole block is worth preserving. And the father said, but we don't know what to do with it yet. That has nothing to do with whether it should be preserved or not. There's no connection between the two things. It was a moot point. So 406-531-2394 is also the phone number for people at home who want to call.
Well,
can I just
certainly, James. Yeah, certainly.
Echo what you were saying, Lisa. I agree 100%. And one of the other practical things that this block does is it's right downtown. All the transportation comes in towards it. It's not somewhere out in the perimeter that you have to leave and cross town or go downtown. It's right in downtown. It's right in the very
Tell
center.
people where it is.
It's right
at
in the
home.
very center.
The location. It's Spruce and.
Yeah, it's at Spruce and Orange, right next to St. Pat's, right across Owen Street from St. Pat's Hospital, a block away from the courthouse, a block away from the downtown bus depot. So, yes, it has this great location. So some of the dreams for it have been things that range from hospice. There's lots of space there. There's 40,000. If you count both buildings, they're essentially both buildings. There's a little bit of Sunday school in the Loyola building, but you basically have 40,000 square feet of classrooms, auditorium, gym, all there. And you have this interest by people that, say, serve patients, physical therapy groups, cancer care groups, and then you have this downtown interest. You have one of our conferences was with a lady who sits on 13 different boards that have to do with children and youth, and she told us that half of those groups would like to be in this building in one way, shape, or form. Some of this started, interestingly, with the Missoula Folklore Society. They do a lot of folk dancing, Scottish dancing, but all types of dancing, especially Scottish. And they see those rooms, since everything has wood floors. It's wood floors throughout. They see it as a wonderful, any one of the rooms as being an opportunity for for dance classes and dance instruction. I see you nodding, Alice.
No, I was just going to speak to something that was said earlier,
Yes.
but about the sense of permanence that the building provides. And and also speaking to the poverty level of so many children in the area, and just how, so many kids don't have any permanence in their life or any security or anything they can hold on to, and to have that, and then to have a place where theatrically they can be creative, and there's just so many great programs within a theater context. I mean, I know there are many other great programs too. I mean, that tends to be my bent, but where they can write and paint and do all aspects of creating theater together in different age groups. And
well, I think a lot of us are here in one way or shape or form because of the university. I mean, I myself, I'm a university student. I've been taking a class every semester for the past several years, and without the university, probably some of the things we're talking about, but we do have the university. And so, as you were mentioning, how do you get something like this known? Well, the university has a marketing division in the School of Business, and so on. And of course, it's got athletic for kid basketball. It's got theater people. It's got I was just contacted today by a very major community organization that foresees children, working with children in there. If they get the go-ahead, and yes.
Even the housing authority had an idea that they could rent some of the upstairs for apartments and use the bottom spaces. I mean, if you want.
No, it's actually offices. They had hopes of officing there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's ways of doing that.
Yeah, it just seems like such a win-win for the parish. I mean, I grew up in that parish, and we used to have bingo games, and we used to have. Actually bingo games out on the lawn between the two buildings, the rectory and the old Loyola High School. I mean, it was just magical. Talk about magic. Those are the magical moments that I remember from my 8 years of education at that school, were the magical moments of when the families got together, had a candlelight, or they had strung lights around the perimeter of the lawn in front of the high school, between the rectory and the high school, and they would set up bingo, and the parents would play bingo, and we would play on the playground, and there would be an ice cream social, and then in February we would have a Valentine's Day party where the adults would have their bingo and their games in the auditorium, and we would be in the gym with games set up for the kids. Those are the magical moments that I remember. Those are the things that brought us together as a Catholic school and a Catholic community. And it can still serve the parish very well, because I think even parishes hunger for that kind of community. And you need a space to build that. It just doesn't happen without the space. So to replace it, I don't even understand why it would be of any benefit for the parish to replace it when they've got this beautiful building with art detail and features that you can't replace for the amount of money it would take.
And we were talking about making a parking lot. A parking lot. When I told the community yesterday, you know why it was so easy to gather 40 signatures is because every single person, I went to that, what is that called? Lunch, out to lunch. Out to lunch, I just picked one row. I started, with one person, and I said, hey, do you think we should have a community center with theater and seniors and after at-risk kids, or should we have a parking lot? And they were like, excuse me? I mean, people were, there was like 5 people together, and all 5 of them were like, wait, let me sign when you're done. They were grabbing it, Yeah. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
It's really striking a nerve, I think, with the community, because I think we are seeing Missoula grow so rapidly and changing so rapidly. I mean, like, Reserve Street is like a foreign country, literally, out there. It's so different, and from what it was 5 years ago. And I think people are really seeking that, what you were talking about, that continuity, that permanence, that sense of place. What is Missoula? What is Missoula? This is Missoula, where we're sitting downtown. This is Missoula. When you ask people, it's not Reserve Street with all the big box stores and all. That is not what defines us from Boise or Spokane or Great Falls or Helena or anything. This is what defines us. And we have got to continue to hold on to these. Otherwise, we're going to be no different than any other place, and we're going to suffer a loss of spirit. And I think, the important thing is location, location, location. Well, I'm thinking of this beautiful building that could be utilized in the summer for theater camps, for camps for kids of all sorts, art or music or drama or dance or even sports. I mean, the kids could walk across the bridge over to McCormick Park to the swimming. I mean, we used to cross that train track bridge daily to go swim at McCormick Park. And they can just simply cross Orange Street Bridge. They can walk down to the public library. They can walk to the art museum, to the classes. There's 1,200 employees at St. Pat's?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And so yes.
You've got at least half
Yeah.
of those people probably are a third with children. How wonderful, what a wonderful
Yeah.
location for them to have an opportunity for day camps for their kids in the summer. It's just
Yeah.
a beautiful resource that could really serve the parish well, serve the community well.
And Alice worked with a program that would be perfect there.
Yeah, it's called Inside Out. It was a program in LA that, it's a theater arts-based group, and it was for kids at risk. We'd go into certain schools in very difficult areas, and there were a series of workshops were developed, and what's so great about it, besides the fact that they ended up writing their own shows and putting them on, and painting big murals with the names, and each workshop kind of teaches a life lesson, but it's sort of in there without them realizing they're learning it. And as an artist being trained to work with the kids, you had to go through the training yourself, just like the kids would. And I mean, it like changed me, just because I think when you're a kid, whatever your circumstances, and certainly kids from really at-risk situations, you don't, you suppress so much or not, you don't feel free to express yourself, or that people really care or want to hear you, and this really offers that, and there are just so many artists here that I know would want to be involved in it.
And that's I entirely agree with
Yeah.
that. That's one thing I've been yelling about for many, many years is I think the kids have a voice.
Yeah.
I think, from young to, out of high school, I think the kids have a voice, but a majority feel that nobody's going to listen.
Right.
Yeah, what difference does it make?
Yeah,
Yeah.
what different,
What difference does it make?
there is a huge apathy out there. And by giving the kids a voice, theatrically, sports-wise, whatever, I'll speak to the theatrical part, you do give them, you open a door that would not have been opened. And once they step through that door, you're going to see some amazing success stories.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you.
I think one of the other things I would like to add to this discussion is that I think if the intention is to make it a multi-use and multi-age.
Right.
And I think forums for getting different age groups, I know it's a cliche, but it's so important to have every age group get together to meet with one another, adults including kids.
Right.
Older adults meeting with middle-aged adults, because the opportunities for that are very limited in our society. And I think if we could make it a multi-use, and maybe you can speak to that, Denise, multi-use with multi-age groups, that we can all learn lessons. We can find out what the kids are thinking, because we say, well, these kids are weird. Well, where's the opportunity to talk and find out what they're really thinking? They may look weird, but they're pretty intelligent, a lot of them, the ones that I've met, They may look very strange, but they've got good ideas, and they know what's going on, and they can think.
Well, in the Green Party, a lot of our activists are either 18 or 80, because they're the people who actually, everybody else in the middle is busy raising families, and they're exhausted, and they're working 80 hours a week. It is important, and it's true, senior citizens are often senior citizen centers with only senior citizens, and who better to learn things from too than it's endless. The possibilities are endless that could be done. I hope that the community will urge the father to do something with it, because it's you might want to mention something too to the listeners, so the watchers.
Well, I think maybe it is good to just tell the listeners at this point that
it's very hierarchical, and it's not democratic the way they're doing this, and they've shut out the
it's hard to
community.
say. It's hard to say, but I think things are changing. I think things are evolving, and there's more tendency to listen as we go along. This is a good chance to mention. I'm glad you brought that up. That we are the Save St. Francis Xavier group, Save St. Francis Xavier School, which is at Spruce and Orange. It's a large, presently unused grade school. It's been empty about 560 days. This is after a lifetime of very solid use, 77 years of very solid use. St. Pat's moved out early last year. It's a good, there's nothing wrong with the building. It's a good, solid building. I don't think St. Pat's would have been in there with their administrative offices, gymnasium, medical library, if it weren't a good, solid building. And so, excuse me. And so we've been having each month a discussion on MCAT. I will say that those of you who are watching now, there will be another chance to see this program. There's basically two opportunities. So if you happen to be watching the first opportunity, there will be a second opportunity to see this program. It'll be
And your phone number and
it'll
website?
be aired twice. You can call MCAT for the times.
I mean your phone number.
Yeah, MCAT, which is the first listing in the M's. And our phone number is 531-2394, our website, Xavier Foundation, www.xavierfoundation.net. And just by way of explanation, this is a series of presentations. We've had a youth speak, we've had a neighborhood speak. Last time, Cheryl Nertha and Robert Lee came with the Missoula Writing Collaborative and spoke to the poetry aspect. And that brings up an issue that we are sponsoring a summer poetry contest with prizes. We've posted the town. It's on our website. The prizes are excellent, 300, 200, and 100. It's worth writing something and getting it in, folks. The judging is in October. It's open to students. It's open to everyone. A broad spectrum of the community can certainly join and give a shot at it. And that gets us back to what is, the idea of poetry actually evolved from the poem Old Ironsides Saved the Constitution, which is, a tall ship in Boston Harbor, a large, tall ship that was one of our, it's a ship of the line of the U.S. Navy and assisted us in many, many actions over the years. And it, most recent action was it's credited in Master and Commander as having played a part somehow in Master and Commander. I'm not sure how. I think maybe some of the deck scenes were shot there from having seen the movie. So that's kind of who we are, what we're about, and we realize we have a very powerful and very interested and involved arts community in this city. And so we have hopes that of further discussions as this goes on of this subject. Could
I just say something, Tom?
Certainly, James Weir.
What we're looking at is we're not trying to be confrontational. We know that the parish and the diocese owns the building. We know that this is a private property issue. But I was thinking we're just kind of like the kids that Alice was talking about and Chris were talking about. We've got something to say. Listen to what we're trying to say. This would be an absolutely fantastic gift to give the city of Missoula as a gift from the parish, in conjunction with the parish.
Instead of a parking lot.
Instead of a parking lot, What a gift, What a marvelous gift to give the community, It'd be remembered from now till, well, we blow ourselves up or we become extinct or whatever. But it'd be there for all time as a gift from the Catholic community to the city of Missoula.
And it can bring in money, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lots of it could be a profit-making thing for people who aren't even interested in the other stuff. It's positive for everyone.
Theater is what we're about, and I found myself thinking of a couple things. One was, the bard on the boards, the ways that Shakespeare has influenced us. Chris, you were talking about conspiracies. I'd like to catch you sometime. This may not be the place, but the whole idea, who was Shakespeare? I personally think he might have been 4 different people. I kind of think Kit Marlowe survived and went to Italy.
My father wrote books on how he was really Francis Bacon.
There you go. And don't forget Kit Marlowe. And don't forget the 16th Earl of Surrey.
Yeah, right.
I'm a Francis Bacon man myself.
Are you really?
And I think there were 4 Shakespeares myself, but
maybe a woman.
And there's lady.
But
actually, the Earl of Surrey's daughter was the one who carried the manuscripts too.
Look at where Shakespeare performed his plays. It was right in the heart of London, in a working-class dockland area, surrounded by the worst crime that was ever perpetrated in the face of the earth. And that place was crowded every day, you know. The Globe,
Well, it was reasonably safe in there, James. It
the
was-
Globe, yeah, exactly. They got out of the way of all the
I'd be the only person
cutpurses
that would
and
say.
thieves and everything. But look at where it was built, right in the center of the town, you know. And it didn't have a parking lot. You walked there, you know, or hitched your horse or whatever, you know. It was right in the middle of the town, you know.
Theatrically speaking, just one question that came to my mind that I wanted to throw to the group. How do we answer the question? There's already been a renovation of a school here in town for children theatrically, and that was the Central School project for Missoula Children's Theater.
That is, yes, and that's a good question, because actually we've taken, Father Jerry Graham has toured that theater with us, because it's such an example.
Mm-hmm.
That building, I believe, was about 6 months from demolition. There was somewhat of a tendency that the roof had caved in a little bit due to the rain damage. They took that building, and I believe it was about $800,000 then, just took it and turned it into an absolute gem.
Absolutely.
I mean, that was to renovate the school part. And then, of course, there was the theater part, which was another issue, and gorgeous theater that was added.
The thing I'm wondering is, will we be hitting a vein that's already been tapped?
I don't think so. Actually, I was over and I was talking to Jim Caron about this. And Jim said, boy, I'm behind you. And he said, have Father come over and talk to me. He said, you know, I'm an old Benedictine kid.
Yes.
He said, and I'll match wits with a Jesuit any day. And so I'm in hopes Father will go over, you know, Father Perry will go over and talk to people and start meeting people in town and finding out, you know, what we have here.
And maybe...
Yes, Alice?
Oh, I was going to say,
Yes.
you know, maybe if it sort of functioned a little differently than
Right.
MCT and served maybe more to, like, kids at risk or even kids with disability, you know, that, not that MCT shuts them out or anything,
No,
but
no.
it's just that it's a different kind of program where they're they're writing their own material, you know, I mean...
They don't have do they have, offer after-school activities for children in the community, and basketball and movie night and dances, and, I mean, isn't that just a theater?
Well, yeah, actually, what you're talking about is something called the CYO,
Right.
which is the Catholic Youth Organizations, and they actually are for youth. They do sports, they do dances, and theater can certainly be part of it. Of course, you're
with all
also
those
talking
kids-
about the YMCA.
All those
The
kids
YMCA is very
at
interested in
Expert
this.
Tire, the fact that we saw, it seemed like the entire community was standing in front of Expert Tire, and not just Expert Tire, they were up and down, what was that, Main
Corners.
Street?
Maine and Higgins.
A number of streets. It was the weirdest thing. I mean, people were literally almost frozen like mannequins with makeup on, and they were very young, and they seemed to have absolutely nothing. They weren't even talking.
They don't have any place to go.
They have
There's no
nowhere to
place
go. So clearly, whatever
there's
there
no
is,
venue
there's
high
need
school
for
kids
more.
in Missoula.
Yeah, I think,
No.
Chris, I think I agree with Alice that it's a different stream, it's a different
Right.
focus, you know. And I think what I'd like to take is what Denise was saying about these people. Well, why don't we have a place where you can go and say, well, we would like to put on an experimental theater, or I've got a play I would like to put on, or we've got a new dance form that we would like to put on. You know,
Right.
where can we hold it? Well, go to the community theater
Yeah.
at Xavier and see if they'll help you with it. And a place for people to get an accommodation to put on what they want, you know? What have you got? What would you like to do?
Give
Well, we'd
somebody
like
a
to have
voice.
we'd like to have a place just to sit down and talk.
Well, Suzette has
Well,
made the point that of our rapid growth here, and that large spaces, while we are building houses real fast, large spaces are very much a different story. Building large spaces is very difficult. This is a large built space, you know, an existing building.
And getting anywhere, I'm sure you've had the experience, I'm sure you have too, of getting anywhere to hold anything. If you go to anybody who has accommodation that you can hire, you know, they'll say, well, when do you want to come next year? Because it's booked up solid, you know, week after week, day after day. There's just no spare accommodation to do things.
Yeah,
And it's
then-
going to be saved anyway. The building is going to be, I mean, they've unanimously decided that
yeah.
it should be on the National Registry of
Yeah,
Historic
I think
Places.
I don't see how, you know, it seems that it will be saved, because it's been promised to the community that the building is not in danger. That promise has been made. And then it also that we are seeking uses. Whether the uses we're talking about here will become part of the dream, we don't know. But I do believe that there will always be an auditorium and a gym there. And that means that those spaces will always be, there may be an evolution of uses according to enthusiasms, as you pointed out, Chris, whether the Missoula Community Theater, Children's Theater, Community Theater, with its magnificent outreach to the entire nation and entire world, literally, but yet they were very interested, and I've talked to many members over there.
Right.
And everybody's interested in this and hopeful for
That's
it.
great.
Because it's theater space, and hey, us theater buffs got to stick together.
Absolutely.
There ain't that many of us.
And shouldn't the parishioners contact the father to tell him that they would like to see this used
Well,
for
I
the
think
community?
I think probably that's a given. I think probably as this evolves, there'll be more and more, communication that way. We did have a parish forum about this issue. Actually, the issues were preliminary to this. And then this fall, there's going to be more discussion of this issue. But the last one was not well attended. That's a worry.
Well, you may have people watching that want to help out. They may want to help gather signatures, because how many signatures do you
Boy.
have now?
Well, we're up. Our goal is at least 2,000. We're over 500 now, thanks to yeoman work by some of the people present here.
But you need more people to help out by
Yeah,
calling
lots more people.
406-531-2394 or going to Xavier, Xavier Foundation.net.
Yes.
There is an email link on that too, that if they want to
There
contact
sure
us,
is.
that's fine. And there's also
Yeah.
some very interesting links. That this is not just a local issue. This is a national historic preservation movement in the whole of America to preserve buildings or structures which are fast disappearing.
Interestingly, you can sign the petition by going to the website.
It's very interesting.
You can just email your signature to the website. There's a link there for that. You might mention, Alice, before passing it over to you, some of the interesting links on the website include historic links, but also we have a link to the Vatican, a link to the diocese, a link to the parish website, and to the National Conference of Catholic Bishops websites. Because I think everybody's a player in this.
Yeah, the Vatican website is fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, it really is. It truly is.
It's something different.
Are there any video games with a Pope on there?
Yeah, it's everything.
I'll tell you what I did. I clicked into that innocently enough when it was first set up, not knowing, and I came out of there 2 hours later bleary-eyed because there was so much in there that I was wanting to know and wondering about, and it just was, coming at you like a blizzard. Alice?
I just wanted to repeat, the website is www.xavierfoundation.net.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say, when we were collecting signatures, I was a little surprised. It seemed like a lot of people, though, were not aware, though, of the situation. So I just...
that is so true.
So be aware, people.
Yeah, that is so true.
Yeah.
In fact, even parishioners.
Yeah, because some people said, I go there, and they're like, I didn't know.
Yeah.
How can I help?
I didn't find
Well,
anybody
it's an
except the
interesting-
social worker.
Well, it's an interesting chunk of Missoula for a community that's said to be about maybe 50,000, 60,000 people in the limits here, and maybe 100,000 in the area total. That parish constitutes 2,000 of us. It's a very large organization. Maybe the largest organization in our town is that the largest single organization, 2,000 people in that is that parish, possibly. It's just a possibility. But
There's also, in 1997, they passed a law that because it's a historic building and it'll be under the National Registry, some of the building codes will be forgiven. So tearing it down is, it's really more of a benefit to keep it as a historic building. And there's also federal funding available. We have it. I live in a historic neighborhood in Los Angeles, and we fought to preserve it. And a lot of the owners didn't want to preserve the buildings because they said, oh, no, it's going to be a problem for us. No, it's a financial benefit because the city will forgive you some codes because you're reusing it for an existing structure that's historic, and there is federal money available because they want to encourage what little history there is left. We're in such a throwaway culture.
yes, and this is a 1927 building, and interestingly, in the process of these petitions. I was at the farmer's market and talking to a lady, and she says, "I'm sorry, I can't help you. I'm from Upper New York State, but you might like to know this. I live in a home that was built in 1720."
Wow.
You know, so, I mean, right in our country, we have structures that go on and continue. Europe.
In Scotland, they probably laugh at us that we think 1927 is an elderly.
Well, when you've got castles and buildings that were built in 1160 and 980 and, 1025 and all this kind of stuff, it's,
But buildings
the
of this,
perspective is entirely different.
But actually, buildings of this very type, what you referred to once as 19th century architecture.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Edinburgh Castle, for example, was built in the 1100s.
But I was going to say masonry
Yeah.
masonry wood beam,
Yeah.
like this building.
Oh, yeah.
They're still in use in Roman Germany.
Yeah.
The Romans built them in Germany in 400 AD, and they're still in use.
Yeah. Well, Edinburgh Castle is still in use. It's a museum for various Scottish regiments. It's got the Scottish Regiment Museum there. It's a tremendous tourist attraction, and it houses a lot of army offices, and it was a garrison at one time, and it was built in the 1100s. I mean, talk about adaptive reuse. I mean, it's. You mentioned you were on the Edinburgh Fringe. Did you go to see the tattoo?
Oh, no, I was in the New York Fringe.
Oh, New York. I thought you said the
Yeah.
Edinburgh one. Well, the Edinburgh tattoo, which is, you talk about a spectacular event. It's held on what they call the Esplanade. It's a big square outside the castle. And it's attended by hundreds of thousands of people from all over the world, and it's absolutely spectacular. And it's adaptive reuse building. They didn't knock it down. I mean, Edinburgh thrives on it. The amount of tourists that come there, all year round. As I've said before, and we've said in these programs before, if you want to put it in black and white terms, in terms of straight money, profit and loss, that complex and that block there would be a draw for people to come in.
More than a parking lot.
Absolutely.
I never really made plans to go out for the evening and go to a parking lot.
No.
Unless there was a tire store there, of course.
Here's a little theater experience that my wife and I got to spend a little time in London, and there's two daughters, the red, not Redfern, but the two daughters of Michael.
The Redgrave?
Redgrave.
Redgrave,
Yeah.
Lynn
So
and,
the very
Lynn
tall
and
one.
Vanessa.
The very tall one played Prospero in The Tempest, and we were privileged. We betook ourselves over to the New Globe. Here's a building that's so historic they had to recreate it, complete with straw roof, the works, thatch roof, the whole thing.
It was an American that was primary in getting it rebuilt.
And it's a gorgeous thing, the way it was. They were even throwing fish around at the audience, and the audience would,
Real
That's all.
just gelte fish, whatever.
If you weren't any good in Shakespeare's times, there was more than that.
They were throwing fish back and forth, as good as Lynn Redgrave is,
Yeah.
And but we were privileged to be the last two admitted that day, so we were in the whatever they call that section down on the floor, that's the pit. Yeah, and what an experience. And here's London recreating history, so that we modern folks can experience the globe.
There's no seating in the pit. You stand.
And we stood, and gladly we did. Gladly we stood.
And it's open air as well, and you get rained on.
Yeah. Gladly we stood and heard the Druid. Can you make something out of that? Can you carry that into theater?
Yeah.
I'm going to give up the stage though to a real actor, Chris Evans. By the way, if you all think Chris looks Chris looks, I'm sorry.
You look
looks a
Evans.
little Evans, you're right.
You both look very Evans.
If you think Chris looks familiar, there's a reason. You've seen him and I've at least seen you, Chris, on television a fair amount.
Yeah, it's sometimes, as my wife likes to say, a little too much of a case of a little too much free time. Just a couple of questions that come to mind, and just once again, you were talking about the expert tire. Is the one question I would have asked these kids, why are you here? Is going to them, because I believe there is a reason. Taking a look at high schools, I did a lot of research on a show called about school shootings that were going around town called American Roulette. And delving into a lot of, it dealt basically about the Springfield shootings and talking to kids. I went to Springfield and did research on Kinkle, and why are they there? Why are they there? How can we get them excited about theater? You go into high schools nowadays, you go into middle schools, the theater kids are a handful. And they're a pretty dedicated bunch. Outside of that handful are the kids that theatrically we have to sell. We have to sell. Either to come in and express themselves through art, through dance, through theater, through sports, to use this place. Because I believe, and this is my opinion, there are quicker, easier, more throwaway things to do, things that are more accessible, not quite as hard to do. And I believe, and I think as we're selling this, that we need to speak to that. One of the best things I was asked as a retail clerk is, why should I shop in your store? And I see every reason. I will shop in this store. I support this project. But why should the person that is watching right now shop in this store? What is available to them? And I think that needs to be made clear, absolutely clear. Just from that standpoint, to give lessons that Alice and I can bring theatrically to this is selling them, giving them a voice, teaching them that their opinion counts, their thoughts matter. Because going back to what I said, I don't think they do. I don't think they believe that right now.
See, I think one of the things that does come through is when you're trying to sell something, we've got to be really careful you don't sell it as a canned thing. I think what people are looking for is something available, but they have a say, a voice in it, and to get involved. Mm-hmm. Now, people don't have a lot of time, or they think they don't have a lot of time nowadays, and they don't want to get involved because it takes commitment. But if you say, well, look, this is something that's evolving. It's not a canned presentation. It's not a set of rules.
Right.
It'll evolve. It's something, well, what would you like to do? And if you've got come and you've got a stake in it, well, I helped build that. I helped do this. I helped make it. It's my community center. It's my project.
And people are clamoring.
And everybody in Missoula, we're all in this together.
And people are clamoring to get involved. I mean, everyone that Tom's been working on this for a long time, Tom and his wife, and everyone they talk to, every nonprofit, every theater person is excited. I mean, the people that I was talking to at lunchtime yesterday were excited about various things. I mean, some of them thought theater was exciting. Some said, some single mothers were like, oh yeah, I do need somewhere for my kids to go after school. Probably your kids are at the tire store. So she probably, I mean, think how a parent, forget the kids, how would you feel as a parent if, your kids came home and you said, where were you for the last 4 hours? And they went, I was standing in front of a tire store. Yeah. Instead, they could say, there's even children's Shakespeare. We were talking about Shakespeare. I have a little friend who's 10 years old, and she's going to be in Midsummer's Night Dream. Mm-hmm. They're doing a children's version of Shakespeare. It's a little shorter. But
see, and the single mom,
endless possibilities.
The single mom that comes in with a child, her primary focus is on the child to get the child involved in theatre and stuff. But my experience with working with single moms is they're isolated. They're on their own. They need somebody to talk to.
Right.
They need the communication.
Yeah.
They need to start the support system. They need to say, oh, yeah, I met Suzette Dussault, and she's on city council, and she was this and this and this, and I was talking to her last night. And that makes them feel important, involved, and they communicate. Because a single parent, as you well know, has a tremendous responsibility. And socializing for the adult part of that family is very, very, very difficult outside of family, if you've got a family.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And I think this would be a marvelous opportunity for that connection.
Yeah. I was just going to what Chris was saying about, I think maybe like with the high school age kids, if it's kind of presented to them where they could function in a sort of mentor role to help the younger ones.
That's a great idea.
Because I just know for myself feeling like you have a purpose, like sometimes, like with Inside Out, which has grown through the years, the enrollment, they sign a contract, that they're going to abide by just basic respect and commit to the period of time. And some really rough kids who, big troublemakers in school, they end up very dedicated. And it's
Yeah,
kind of-
because they know, they've been used to no boundaries,
Right.
And kids like boundaries. They like parameters. They like, signing a contract. Well,
Yeah.
this is what I can do, this is what I can't, and this is what I've committed to.
It's very
Right.
adult.
And I'm part of this, and this is my,
Yeah.
and this is my contract with them, and this is, I'm going to make it work because this is what I've committed to, and it's me,
Yeah,
inside me. It's
Right.
me. I've done this.
right.
And it gives them empowerment.
Yeah.
That's very true, and we do have a special kind of a little bit of an edge here in that the Jesuits, this is a Jesuit parish, these are Jesuit buildings in a sense. They were built by Jesuits originally. And the Jesuits have programs, for instance, that address that, what you were just referring to, that kind of middle school ennui, as it were, or middle school break. A kid could go either way. And a lot of times it's boredom is the problem that the kid, and they get them into a real serious program, and the kids really come along. They're called nativity schools, and we have one, Nativity Miguel. If the Christian Brothers operate them, there is one up at Browning right now, and there's one in Portland that the Jesuits operate. And then I was also going to mention the Lynch School of Education out of Boston College, another Jesuit school, does have model after-school programs that work well in South Boston. And they work apparently on a 6-week rotation, so that would contrast a little bit with, say, the usual, one of the models has been get a play set up and have it going and finish it in a week. And then I think the summer rotation is different, but they rotate every 6 weeks, a new piece of theater, and that the kids take on and try out for and work their way through.
And there's another aspect of it too, the whole behind-the-scenes aspect where kids could get into sets and to prop design. That's just a tremendous way to build community and for kids to
Well,
serve.
sets are carpentry,
Yeah, exactly.
but they're also
they're
large-scale murals.
kids are hungering
Hungering
for involvement.
You can be a carpenter, you can be anything.
Exactly,
Yeah,
a way
exactly.
to belong to something and to give of themselves. I've worked with age groups from kindergarten through high school, and by the time they get to middle school, they want to give. They want to show what they can do and express who they are. And it may not be necessarily always in the academic setting. I think that theater and art and music and all of the athletics provides a way for them to give something of themselves and to kind of explore who they are.
And they may not get enough of it in school.
Yeah.
Our school cut all the arts programs, and they got new football uniforms, but they cut every theater, all the theater programs.
And it's discouraged in a lot of homes as well, it's just not.
Could I just add to what you were saying, Suzette? I entirely agree with you, and I think what it is that gives them an opportunity to put into practice the theory that they're learning. There's too much theory in schools. There's no practicality in our education system. You don't put into practice what you learn. You teach how to organize and how to think, but you never give them a project. And my experience has been with teaching, and I'm sure yours has been in education, is if you can organize, especially middle school kids, if you want something done and you tell them how to do it and get them organized, it's done and over before you know where you are.
Last night,
It's incredible what they can do.
it's just incredible. I had this cooking camp going on, and I have these fifth through 8th graders. And last night they made a coq au vin dinner for 15 with this wonderful potato puree from France and the 5 pies and everything. I mean, we made that in one day, and these kids worked like little Dickens to get this done, but they did it. I mean, it's just amazing what they can do when given the opportunity and the expectation that, hey, well, we're going to have a family dinner and all of your families are invited, and what would you like to make?
And there it is.
And there it is,
Yeah.
and they did it.
Yeah, but it was involvement.
Absolutely.
And thank you, Suzette. It's fun to think about. It's fun to think about food. It's fun to think about kids doing it, doing food and doing theater.
As we wrap up,
it's all
can you
in
give
art.
the phone number?
We'll wrap up.
Contact us at
contact-
406-531-2394, xavierfoundation.net,
Yeah.
XAVIER foundation.net.
do get involved. We have buildings, we have hopes, we are making proposals to the owners.
Call the father?
Yeah, let's.
Not just that one.
Let's work together, let's all work together to have a community center here. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you all next time. And we are the Xavier Foundation. We are Poetry Speak. Chris Evans, Alice Spritz have graced us with thoughts about theater and how it can affect children. Thank you so much, everybody. Until the next time, we are the Xavier Foundation.